gents, welcome to A. Thompsin and Other Disappointments, episode whatever the fuck it is that we're on now. I don't know. I didn't do any prep. I don't have an LBC budget behind me. I have kids. I have no time. So here it is. That's your intro. It's a weird and wonderful time out there at the moment. Lots going on. Climate change is threatening our very existence. Pandemics are threatening our very existence. Brexit is threatening, well, not our very existence, but it's just fucking shit, all right? Then there's a cost of living crisis. Mortgages are doubling. There's an incoming buy-to-let bloodbath. That's happening soon. Look out for that. That's where your landlord passes on their hiked mortgage to you, and you get propelled out of the security of your rental home onto the street. It's like, at least in some parts of the US, they have the climate where you could consider like living in a tent for a bit until you sort yourself out. Over here, it's going to get really bad. It already is bad. Things are just really fucking bad, guys. Which is why I brought one of my favourite guests back from the last bunch of shows to cheer us all up. As I say, one of my faves from the last batch. Please welcome back to the show, host of the What She Said podcast, professional podcast producer, and all-round good egg, Lucy Lucraft. Woo!
Hello.
Hello. How you doing? All right?
I'm all right. A bit tipsy.
Little bit. Well, that's you're in good stead then, in perfect form for this show. Last time we caught up, we got a bit of an inkling into your life as a podcast producer. Let's sort of rewind a little bit on that, and perhaps you could provide us a little bit of an intro, Lucy, into what you do.
Oh, yeah. It's really hard to describe what I do, and I've actually been thinking of not rebranding, but sort of maybe clarifying what I do. I was going to talk to you about this actually, like offline.
Okay.
Slide into your DMs and ask. So I am a podcast producer. So I help people make their podcasts for them. And it could be anyone. I have like lots of different from clients from corporate to solopreneurs and all the nuts and bolts of a podcast. And as you know, there are many. I do the whole thing. But as it goes, the title podcast producer, I think sometimes alienates people a little bit. I think they don't know what that is. And I sort of was thinking, maybe I should just say podcast manager, because essentially that's what I'm doing.
I guess I'm, like podcast management, podcast producer, new media consultant, perhaps.
Oh, I like it. New media consultant. That sounds more... that's like the boomer version, isn't it? Do you think?
maybe I'm showing my age. I don't know. I'm just thinking, like, if you were, like, if you were a managing director of a company and you were thinking about, starting a podcast about paperclips or about the cycling industry or something, if you're in your 50s and 60s. If you saw podcast producer written somewhere, would that feel intimidating? A little bit like new, foreign, whereas new media consultant, they would be like, oh, okay, all right.
I like that. That's a good idea. So that is for LinkedIn, isn't it? That's what I need to save that for. Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, look, if you don't like, I appreciate you saying, yeah, I like it. It would probably make funnier content from my perspective if you were like, I fucking hate that. I'm not calling myself that.
I mean, you're the comedian. I can't do the bits.
Well, I don't know. You were pretty funny last time you were on, so hence one of the reasons I was keen to get you back on. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about tonight. So last time you were on, we talked about 2 or 3 different topics, but since then, the UK has sort of, in my opinion, has begun really kind of circling the drain. I think last time you were on, we talked a little bit about whether we have faith in the country and sort of how we get through the longer days and the tougher news stories. It feels to me like we've gone down like another level in terms of the depression stakes nationally. We're now firmly in a cost of living crisis. I mentioned in the intros, like, mortgages are out of control.
Yeah.
I saw a tweet earlier by a guy who was incensed, understandably. He said his landlord had just raised his rent, or attempted to raise his rent, by £500 a month. I was like, what? And he goes, he says, I'm refusing to pay the hiked up fees. And then there was a load of people underneath saying, yeah, well, that will be your buy-to-let landlord, whose buy-to-let mortgage he would have just remortgaged, and now the hiked up mortgages are now getting passed at, like, so hence my sort of introduction there. Like, it feels like all of this shit is really coming home to roost now. Do you have, like, has your faith improved in the UK since the last time we caught up, or like, where are you at now?
Yeah, sure. I love it here. No, it's depleted massively. But I just actually, I know we didn't talk about this before, but when you were talking about mortgages and, landlords, it unlocked a bit of a memory of someone saying on TikTok, I keep seeing landlords on TikTok sort of complaining about, actually it's really hard for us. It's really hard for us too. And I wanted to talk to that because my husband is in property. Like he works with really rich people now, but he used to be an estate agent and worked with also really rich people buying houses. But I remember him always saying to me, the majority of landlords are accidental landlords, as in
that's true, yeah.
They are people who already, this is like, I'm not defending them, by the way. They're accidental landlords in that, say, two people who both own a property meet and go, hey, let's pool our resources. Let's buy a new property. We've both got separate properties. Or maybe let's sell one and keep the other one for rental.
Yeah.
Okay, fine, whatever. And it isn't passive income. It is hard work on some levels. But it should be. It should be fucking hard work. Like, yeah. You're getting a lot of money. And yeah, okay, you're not getting 100%. Like there are overheads. There's a time investment, there's an energy investment, and there's a monetary investment. You're not getting 100% of the rental income back in your bank account.
No.
But that's not, like, why would you think that that's the thing? Like,
it's an
no,
important...
I just have no sympathy for landlords whinging about it.
Yeah. I mean,
it's none.
It's an important point to nail home. And I spoke to a guy called Graham. Fuck me, I can't remember his name now. He's on TikTok. He's quite big. And he does sort of money matters and like mortgage stuff, but he tries to make it a bit funny. And he appears to me to be a Tory. I don't know if he would identify as one, but he showcases a lot of conservative attributes. I'll just say that. And he was on the show a few months ago. And I was saying to him, I was like, I don't have an issue with landlords. My girlfriend is a landlord. Like, I get it in the ear constantly about the challenges that they're up against, the bad reputations that they get as a result of like crooked landlords and bad apples. And I have, maybe sympathy's too big a word for it, but I understand some of the frustrations that they have. So you've alluded very articulately a minute ago to a couple of them. From what I'm led to believe, it's like, yeah, we precisely that. You'll have a boyfriend and a girlfriend, like traditionally they both will own a 1-bed flat. She'll move into his place maybe, and then she doesn't want to let go of her investment because it's maybe her nest egg or whatever. And what if the relationship doesn't pan out? So then they hold on to it and they rent it out. That generates some income, but it's not like she's made, like, let's say it's a London 1-bed flat and it's going for like $1,400 a month. She doesn't make $1,400 a month. She's not like some 17th century fucking land baron with like a massive medallion and a fur jacket. It's like she's got to pay the mortgage that she still has on that. And then it's a buy-to-let mortgage then, which is more expensive than a regular mortgage. She has to pay for her accountant. She's got to sort out all like her books and everything. I'm not saying it's the hardest job in the world, because I often take the piss out of my girlfriend for like when she's like, I have work to do too. I'm like, do you really? I'm at my worst as a partner when we're talking about like our our workloads, because I'm like, I could do your fucking job in like 2 days like and she's like, oh really? But they do anyway. My point is, landlords do have.
You know that it's actually the other way round, though. You know that it's the other way round.
Probably, yeah.
She could do it. She could do it better and quicker.
Yeah. That's exactly it. She's just way more efficient than I am. But yeah, no. My point is that it's not easy work. They do have to work. They don't get to keep all the money. They are landlords of convenience a lot of the time. You're right, and most landlords only own like one investment property that they have then rented out, right? So it's not fair to tar them all with the same brush in that respect. I don't jump onto this sort of bandwagon of like, all landlords are leeches and land hogs, and that's why there's a housing crisis. It's like, no, mate, build some fucking houses.
Well, I think, I agree with you, but I also think it's really difficult to like be a socialist if you own more than one property.
Yeah.
And I'm not suggesting that anyone's claiming they are a socialist and they own a second property, but that's why I don't feel sorry for them, because it should be hard. It should, like, you deserve to earn money from it because you've paid for it or whatever, but that's another job. And it should be just like any other job. You are taxed on that job. There's inconveniences to it.
Well, also, I
find it frustrating.
I feel like the criticism that they attract, though, it always seems to overlook and now I feel like I'm defending landlords to the hill, right? But I do feel there's a case to be made that in every major developed country there are landlords, right? You can either buy a property here or you can rent a property there. And there's an argument to be made that in developed nations, you're going to have academics, technologists, lawyers that will be contracted over to Birmingham for like 6 months to do. They don't want to buy a fucking house there. So there should be a rental market. It's just that it should be saturated by house building and the options to buy. But when people don't have any options, when there's no alternative and you're just like, yeah, I want another 500 quid a month, like that's when I think people get really irate about it.
You are right, and I think what you're alluding to is that it's kind of a distraction, isn't it? To like start pitting each other against it, like it's the same as everything, nurses being on strike. Oh, what about the poor patients? It's such a distraction because actually the person who is responsible is none of us.
Yeah,
it's at the top.
Did you see that clip went viral earlier of Marina Purkis, Jeremy Vine, and this caller Kath from Yorkshire? Did you see it?
Oh yes, I saw that. I bloody loved it.
Yeah, I was like, so for the benefit of listeners, right, who might not know what we're talking about. So there was a lady who phoned into the Jeremy Vine show on Channel 5, and she was. You might have to fill in the blanks now because I saw like the last bit of it, but it was. I think she was fearful of a Labour government, and Marina said, "Why is it that you're scared of a Labour government?" And I can't remember what she said then, but it sort of all seemed to come unraveling very quickly. And it ended up with Marina saying, like, I can tell what paper you read, like, just by the stuff that you're... And then this woman was like, I don't read.
I don't read anything.
Yeah. I was like, and then I saw people like,
it was amazing.
I saw people quote tweeting this and saying like, this is everything that's wrong though with the left is they scoff and they sneer and they're snarky, and I'm just like, just fucking own it. This woman phoned up, said that I think she was upset that people were striking for more money than she gets in her pension, and I'm like, yeah, because you're on a pension. Like, I'm not saying you shouldn't have an increase in your pension, but that's your thing. You protest about that, like form lobby group. Like, why is it there this sort of race to the bottom mentality in this country? It's like,
but I think also to Marina's point, because Marina pointed out when she said that was like, yeah, you like that is like essentially this was not verbatim, but she was like, yeah, that's shit. That like you're in a shit situation and that's not fair for you.
Yeah. And well, this is what I mean.
That is it, 100%, isn't it? And she just couldn't see it at all.
Yeah. But it's the same thing that gets wheeled out with so let's say the train, it's not just train drivers, it's like, train staff as a whole, right? They're striking to get a better pay deal, and then
catering.
But like then the right-wing rags will say, how can they justify striking to get £52,000 a year? That's more than a nurse makes. And it's like, again, like what, like, so give the nurses more money, you dumb twats. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
In no other scenario would we ever be pitting other jobs against each other, but in this situation, like two completely different jobs that are nothing to do with each other, that aren't paid out of the same pot really, are pitted against each other. And the thing that really annoys me about the rail strikes is that we're all forgetting that this is privatized. Why are we forgetting this? Because those companies can pay more. Also, the government could pay more to the nurses. Like, it would be really great if we could all recommend that. It's
probably not mentioned so much because most of the newspapers are right wing, and then most of the news shows take their talking points from the newspapers first off, and so it's not beneficial to the narrative that they try to weave to highlight the failures of privatization. Like I always say, you can privatize industries, but just don't do it where they are a monopoly. So like if you need to get into London from Brighton, that you have one option, right? Train wise, is to like jump on that one train line. If you wrap privatization around that, it's not going to work out well because there's no competition, and like you could award or re-award the line to a different provider every 4 years or whatever. Yeah, but it's like, I mean, they're gonna milk as much money as they can in those 4 years that they're running it, and then they'll go, oh well, we had a good run, and then they'll take over the one, like, I don't know, the northeastern line or something, and then milk that for another like it's fucking nutty. So just to go back to my original question, so where if you were at a 5 before on your faith in the UK, whereabouts would you say you are now?
Oh, mate, like a -10 maybe. Yeah. It's not great. I keep thinking back to, I don't know if you ever have this, but I think back to 2016 when I was like, even before, I wasn't married, I didn't have kids, and I remember marching, and I worked for a right-wing newspaper, and I was so shocked when we left the EU, even though I kind of knew it was going to happen, but also just thought, no, surely no one's that stupid. Like, we're not that stupid. And then every day after that, I have always thought it can't get any worse, and it keeps getting worse. Yeah,
this has become my sort of.
And
This has become my sort of catchphrase now. Is like, the worst thing for the UK now would be that Boris Johnson goes for the leadership again and becomes Prime Minister again. So obviously that is what is going to happen. Like
obviously that's going to happen. Yeah.
Like every single time. I haven't been I mean, that's probably the wrong way of phrasing it. I was going to say I haven't been disappointed yet, but I'm being disappointed. I'm being proven right by my constant disappointment, if that's a better way of saying it. But like, so
you're perpetually disappointed.
Yeah, but it's like it makes it's a little bit of sugar to go with the medicine if I predict the shitness and then the shitness comes true. It's like, well, it's still shit, but at least I was right,
For it,
feeling right about something.
The only hope I have.
Sorry, continue.
That's also important. You've got to get your kicks where you can get them. The only good thing, and the only piece of, it's not hope at all, it's just solace that I have from all of this, is that the worse it gets, the funnier Britain gets.
Yeah.
That is my only solace, because if we have a really bad news week, which is basically every week, I think, do you know what? TikTok's going to be absolutely hilarious this week.
Yeah. There is that, like...
It's going to be so funny.
There's a real... and I think it's actually quite... special, dare I say special, about the British. I think we have a real knack for gallows humour, you know, Blitz spirit, like when things are so inarguably shit, and it is shit to be British in Britain. There's an element of like sarcasm and self-effacing and self-deprecation humor that just flourishes.
Yeah, and it's brilliant, and we become so creative as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's not exclusive to Britain, but that's the only good thing about these terrible, terrible times, is that the creativity is flowing and it's really hilarious.
Yeah. It's sort of, I suppose, from like selfishly, from my perspective, doing the podcast that I do and making this sort of content, the sort of content that I do, it's like, you know, what's the expression? Make hay while the sun shines.
Absolutely, yeah. You're raking it in. We should be
I'm not
having
really.
at you. You are basically a misery influencer, aren't you?
Yes, I'm a binfluencer.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I take
to coin your own term, yeah, you're a binfluencer. Yeah.
I take the awfulness of the world, I show it to you. I'm like, look at this shit, isn't it? Oh, it's terrible, like that. And then the idea is, it's sort of a psychological magic trick. You feel some sort of empathy and catharsis with me also thinking that the world is shit, so you feel like you're having a good time. And then I just bombard you with like sadness and bad news and shit until you're inconsolably like hysterical. And then a few hours later, when you think back to having been on this, you'll be like, I remember feeling empathetic and, you know, catharsis and being in hysterics, so it must have been a good time, I guess. Like that's the trick. Let's talk a bit about like.
Do you have any hope?
Do I have hope?
Sorry, I'm interrupting. No, you go.
No, but I'll quickly answer this, and then we'll jump on to the next bit. Do I have hope? Not really. No, I sort of feel like for the UK specifically, I think we have really performed a blinder at shooting ourselves in the arse, and I think there's no real leadership that is bold enough to hold up their hands and say Brexit was a monumental error and we need to correct it ASAP. On the Tory side, because it's too politically volatile for them. And on Labour's side, actually, it's probably too politically volatile for them also. Like it would, there's a very real fear that it would evoke red wall tensions again. So what you get is two major political parties, and neither one of them have got the balls to do the thing that we all agree secretly that we do need to do. It's so I think we'll probably carry on spiraling. But yeah,
we're not going to see hope in our generation, are we?
Not unless there's some sort of I mean, like today Jeremy Hunt did his speech where he said he was like the British plan for economic prosperity was to invest in green energy and digital and, you know, futurism basically. And when he's talking about that stuff, I was sort of a little bit G'd up because I was like, yes, like we should just be teaching kids how to code, like the end. Like they can learn the other stuff if they want to. Everything else should be opt in, opt out. So, you know, maths, English and coding is how this should work. Because that's going to be the dominant skill of the future. But then he started like peppering the speech with shit about like increasing productivity in the UK and taking advantage of the opportunities that Brexit has given us. And I was like reading through between the lines going like, so basically you're just going to bin the working time directive and all of the EU employment law protections and you're going to make everyone work like 50, 60 hours. Like it's going to be fucking sweatshop Britain. Goodbye maternity pay. Goodbye annual leave. That's the only option he has left after binning the single market and not wanting to invite immigrants in to fill the labour shortage. It's just like, okay, I guess we're all going to work a lot harder against our will.
I know. We really are in late stage capitalism now, aren't we?
It feels like, the last dance, like the jazz band playing on the Titanic just before it goes down. You have, you've got one child or two children? Two. Okay, so here's a question. Being of the mindset that we are, where we sort of agree that we're on the way out. Well, at least that the UK is circling the drain, and that faith is dead. How do you do you protect your kids from that? Do you worry for them and their future in a way that like sends you into a bit of a psychological meltdown? Like, how do you handle that?
I mean, I don't really. I drink a lot, but also we're in the same stage, aren't we? We've got little kids, and so we don't. I feel like I am so taken up by emotionally regulating myself, and doing the real minutiae of life, which is snacks. What's next? Snacks, brushing teeth, admin, school. Do you know what? I don't feel that I am in the stage when I need to worry about I'm not thinking about their future in terms of the planet probably won't be here. We'll probably all be. No, I don't think that. But I don't have the brain capacity to think that far ahead because I'm in the rush hour of parenting.
Yeah.
It's probably
a more mentally healthy space to be in because I'm sure. So I did cognitive behavioral therapy about 4 years ago. And I'm sure there's a term for this, but I can't remember what it was. But it was basically like to stop worrying about things that happened in the past, but then focus on literally in the moment, kind of like, what am I doing right now? I'm talking to Lucy on a podcast, and then like, I'll go inside. Don't think about X, Y, and Z. What am I doing? Oh, I'm breading some, just try and live in the moment more than obsessing over things that have already happened that you have no control over. And I think there's echoes of that in what you're saying. It's like, do you look forward to like 10, 15 years down the line and worry if the planet is fried, cooked to a cinder and uninhabitable? Or do you just sort of focus on, making sure that this is done, that this child is clothed and, it's bath time? And
yeah. So that's kind of all I can cope with, really. But yeah.
I was going to say, like, so talking about, the UK circling the drain, if we broaden that out to some extent, so we talk about like if we have faith in the UK, what about if you look more sort of like internationally? Like, do you have much faith in the future of the planet, like climate change, pandemics, nuclear war? Like, it feels to me at this stage like there is this sort of triple threat. Like, what's the likelihood that we as a species survive another like 50 years or 100 years? Where do you sit with that sort of stuff?
The thing that so I'm Arab, and because of that, I've always been very pro-Palestinian and pretty cognitive or cognizant of like Palestinian issues. I said that for me has always been something that frightens me, like every day. And I know for the majority of people, it's not something that you necessarily read about in a partisan way or in a objective way, because I'm even scared to to even talk about it. A lot of people are scared to even talk about it because of the danger of being considered anti-Semitic, in declaring yourself pro-Palestinian.
Yeah.
So because of that, I think that the thing that really worries me is, are we just forever in the global north going to ignore the global south and turn a blind eye to the devastation that is happening there all the time, which will only get worse with climate change and the effects of climate change? And will that continue to happen? And will things continue to become more and more right-wing, and the noise become more and more controlled by the right-wing? And we'll just live in these bubbles where certain people, you and I perhaps, and people similar to us with the same kind of worldviews, be consuming like all this horror. Like, why is nobody talking about this, and this? Yeah, so that's the thing that frustrates me the most. And then the second thing, or the thing that worries me the most, and the second thing that worries me the most is that Putin is being incredibly embarrassed. He is so embarrassed by what is happening to him right now that surely
Yeah.
he would just be like, fuck you all. I'm going to nuke you because this is embarrassing.
Yeah. 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 I mean, there is that. So I was sort of led to believe that he was on his last legs. Do you remember all those news stories? Like he was on, like I saw quotes from people saying, you know, I'm a doctor, I'm a specialist in this particular type of cancer, and I've seen people that look like him, and I'd say he's got 6 weeks left tops, like, and he's still fucking here. So I sort of hoped, I suppose, like a lot of people, he was on his way out, and you know, I feel sad for his family having lost a son and an uncle or whatever, but geopolitically it would work out pretty well for everyone if he just quietly snuffed it. But yeah, it appears now that he's A, not dying, and B, yeah, he feels like he's sort of backed into a corner, humiliated. But then, like, here's the thing, like, do I just think that because that's what I've roundly been fed by our news, is that he's humiliated, is that, you know, it hasn't gone his way? Like, for all I know, I've consumed a load of like Western media, but actually the real picture on the ground floor is that he had already planned that this was going to be likely a 2-year or 3-year engagement, and at the last minute, I don't know, China will step in, and then he'll get, you know, North Korea to sit like could it all be going perfectly to plan for him, and we're the ones that are in the weird like Russian state controlled media echo chamber, you know?
I don't think so. Just based on how he took Crimea last time, and and to be honest, I think he's obsessed with Crimea, of course, but he is also obsessed with his own public image because he's appears to be a narcissist. And I know it's something that just gets bandied about all the time. He appears to be quite a narcissist, and I think most authoritarians are typically narcissistic.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a satisfying sound.
Yeah. Satisfying drink too.
And so, yeah, nice.
I would go one further. I would say, in my hugely unmedically qualified opinion, I would say he appears to be a sociopath.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? I
mean, I also hugely unqualified, but also would say definitely I would diagnose him as that. And I mean, the way that, look, he's a man, and I think there's nothing more emotional than a man with a lot of power watching another man with a lot of power be more desired and loved and adored by the world than he is. Like, he hates that.
Yeah.
He absolutely friggin' hates it.
But then who do you think he's sort of jealous of that's got more power, that is, what, like Biden or someone, or?
No, Zelensky.
Oh, yes. Yeah, but then here's a curveball, right? So if you go into Russia, I hope I'm not talking shit here, and maybe I'll have to Google it while I'm talking shit, but isn't Putin actually quite popular domestically? Like in Russia, I think they quite like him, no?
Yeah, like he's been around for such a long time that I think he is pretty popular.
Let's have a look.
But I don't think that's the problem. It's the world. It's the rest of the world.
Right.
He wants to control all of us. Like, he can control Russia to a pretty great extent. He can't control the rest of us.
Yeah.
We all love Zelensky. Overwhelmingly.
Yeah. Well, right at the beginning of the invasion, he was almost like kind of a heartthrob. Like, I saw people sharing pictures of him.
He is kind of a heartthrob. He is hot.
With the guns out, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And also...
He is such a dreamboat.
Is
I love
he?
him.
Really? Interesting. Like, let's play with this idea. Okay, so you get a hall pass from your husband, right? He's off on his stag weekend or whatever. He says you could do whatever you like with whomsoever you wish. And you go to a party, and inexplicably at this party, Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, and then Zelensky are all in, and they're all like, Lucy, one time, just next door, there's a 4-poster bed. Please come with me. Which one do you pick?
Zelensky, 100%.
Really? That's
you picked the wrong men for him, though. Really what you needed to pick is my 3 men, the 3 men that I would find very difficult to say no to. You may think differently of me. I don't think you'll ever speak to me again after this. Tom Hardy, obviously.
Okay, sure.
And Danny Dyer.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I've got a friend who was always like, she had a massive crush on Danny Dyer since forever.
Same.
Tom Hardy's...
I will fight her for him.
Yeah, Tom Hardy's more sort of, I guess, not like popular is the wrong word.
Like obvious.
Yeah, like a lot of people fancy him, right? Danny Dyer even now though, or like back in the human traffic days, or really?
No. More so now. But then, to be fair, I have loved him since Human Traffic, and obviously I've aged with him. So, I cannot tell you. And I'm also a massive EastEnders fan, and always have been, like since I was, I don't know, like 9 or 10. Yeah. So when he died, suspected died in EastEnders, like that was a hard time for me. Yeah. I've been having a hard time since then.
You're still in mourning, are you?
Hugely,
yeah. I mean, you can never underestimate the appeal, I think, of a sort of working class lad with a sort of Cockney accent for middle class sounding women. like so I'll tell you a story actually. So one time I was getting on the tube after a few beers when I used to work in the city, and I'd had a couple of beers, but this guy that got on was obviously steaming. And this woman, I say woman, sort of more of a girl, sort of 18, 19, in a nice sort of pretty dress with like cherries or something on it. And he gets on, having had a skinful, and I'm just sat there minding my business, reading the Metro or London Light or whatever. And he gets on, and she is eating some chips. And they're from 2 completely different worlds, seemingly. And he goes, all right. And she's like trying to like ignore him the way that you would do if this sort of, drunk, like lightly led gets on. And she's like, okay. So she gives him a chip. And then he goes, I like your dress, like that. And she's like, okay, thanks. And he goes, can I have another chip? Like that. And she goes, yeah, okay, like that. So she gives him another chip. And then this goes like, and I'm sat there with my newspaper thinking, oh, please just leave her alone. Like, she's probably had a hard day. Like, it's the end of the week. You're obviously like, just leave her the fuck alone. I mean, I wasn't so chivalrous that I got up and then sort of, parted them or like said, stop bothering her, But I felt good about myself having judged him.
You said that all in your head.
Yeah. I felt like a nice guy in my head for just thinking it. So anyway, then he's like, he goes, where are you from? Like, what's your name? And she's like, she tells him, and she said, like, and I'm just thinking any minute now she's going to go like, oh, look, could you just like leave us? Like, I just want to go and sit with my, I really thought that's where this was headed. And he goes, like, what's your name? And she says like Stacy or Sally or something. And then he goes, all right, Sally, I'm going to lean in and kiss you, like that. And I'm just sat there like wide-eyed with this fucking newspaper. I'm like, where is this going? And I like look up, and then she's like, I really don't think you should do that. And he's like, I'm just going to lean in, I'm going to kiss you, and if you don't want me to, you just like push me away. Like, and I'm just thinking, you can't what planet are you on? Where you get on a tube, start harassing some woman who obviously doesn't want to be harassed. She just wants to eat her chips, and then you're going to lean in and kiss, like bothering her, and you're going to try. What are you doing? Anyway, like he goes, I'm just going to lean in, I'm just going to kiss you, and if you don't like, and she's like, no, I really don't think you should. And he's like, here I come, and he leans in, and then he goes to, and then his lips touch her. She wraps her arms around him, and they both start snogging, and they got off the train together.
Sure. That would have worked on me.
Really? This is the wrong advice to be putting out there in a world of budding Andrew Tate fans and
oh my god, right, yeah.
But
it wouldn't work on me now.
No.
Because I'd be like, I've got more about me now. However, I cannot deny that if Danny Dyer came up to me and did that move, it would be over. I mean, it'd be over for my husband.
Yeah. But then it's like, sometimes I think, like, do I know the full context of that? Like, were they both in the same bar before and she was like giving him the eye and then he followed her on the train?
No, there's no context to that. Of course it wasn't. It was just an entitled man.
Yeah.
He probably isn't an incel, but he probably loved Jordan Peterson and thinks of himself as an alpha, and also was quite hot. Yeah.
That's the factor that nobody ever fucking talks about. Like, right, so I mentioned this to Dapper Laughs when he was on a few weeks ago, and he seemed, to be fair to him, he seemed a lot more worldly, a lot more aware of some of the things that he had said when he was a bit younger that were now, you know, in the sober eyes of today's I guess you would call it cancel culture, or, you know, sort of more progressive discourse, would appear to be very problematic now. But anyway, whilst we were talking, I said to him, I was like, do you understand that for a guy like you, who is traditionally quite a handsome guy, I was like, I'm not trying to butter your ass here. Like, I'm just saying, you know, you're obviously a good looking guy. So for a guy like you, if you run up to a girl on the street and you say certain things to her and then she responds well, that there is a responsibility there, that then you must know that there are uglier guys out there who really want to have sex, who will see the way that you treat women like that, and then they'll go like, oh, fucking that's how you do it. Look, he ran up to that girl and then he just started talking about her boobs to her and she went home with him. Like, so obviously that's what and then they go out and try it, and it's like, fucking call the police. This, like, do you see the different? And he was like really responsive to it. He was like, yeah, I get that now. I didn't when I was younger. Like,
but don't you think that all comes down to the idea that men are owed sex? Like, or they're not owed sex, they are entitled to sex with a woman. Heterosexual men, I think, are socialized to believe that they are entitled to sex with a woman.
I think yeah, so this is quite a prickly area to get into, because I don't think, and I don't want to say not all men, like hashtag, but it depends on the guy, because if you get together with a guy with crushingly low self-esteem, Lucy, he will just be thankful when he gets it. It's just like that you allow him to have sex with you. But I imagine, yeah, there's no shortage of men out there who've been conditioned to think that they are owed it, and get in a mood and get in a fluff.
We know there are.
Yeah.
I don't think we can even just imagine. We literally know there are.
Oh, yeah, yeah. One of the things...
Even, like, we just know, like... And when I say men are socialised to think that, I don't mean... The thing that I always think of is that line from Mary Poppins. You know, when she sings, the wife is going on a suffragette rally and she says, she's talking about men. She says, as a group, we all agree although we adore them individually, I'm having to say it as I would normally remember it because I sing it, although we adore them individually, as a group, we all agree they are quite stupid. That's how I feel about men. Like, I have male friends, lots of male friends, people like you, who I adore individually and think are great. as a group, men are quite stupid.
Yeah, but it's
and
like
it's not men's fault, and it's not all men.
Yeah. But the key thing there is when you say socialized, it's like that's the thing, isn't it? It's like looking at things through almost like an anthropological prism. It's like, how are men raised and treated firstly through our society, but then also through like what common traits are there between like our society, other countries that have similar societies, but then other like tribes, and like what are the like women get treated terribly, whether you are in a close-knit circle of friends in London, in Hoxton, like the most progressive part of the UK, or if you go into the depths of an Amazonian rainforest and hang out with a tribe, so there's obviously something innate there that the more physically strong gender is always predisposed.
No, I don't. I think that's a mistake, because that takes away responsibility, doesn't it? And I think that almost means that we can't change things. I don't think it's individual men's fault that they end up being entitled to a woman's body, or just entitled in life. They are socialized by the world to believe that and it's bad also, because if you're in a heterosexual relationship and you have children, however progressive you and your partner are, you will have the burden of feeling like you have to be the breadwinner, and you have to bring home the bacon, and that also you have to be a present father, because if you're a millennial, then you want to be different to your parents, perhaps. And
this is why
for your children, you want to be a.
This is why I like to prize myself as being the most progressive man in the UK, by actively telling my girlfriend, I think you should be the breadwinner and just go out. I'm happy to stay at home and leech.
Well, exactly. Not all men.
For feminism. Yeah, I don't know though. Like it's an interesting area. So I agree that it does take away some responsibility. Like, it doesn't mean that we need to forgive all men of any responsibility of doing the right thing, because we do have free will and we do know right from wrong. But I also think you can't argue with the fact that there are these common traits across all different walks of life. So there clearly is. I mean, unless we're going to make the case that people in New York passed the baton all the way over to an Amazonian rainforest and they learned behaviors off themselves, like tribes who are untouched by our civilization have also picked up these same traits. Like, that doesn't make much sense to me. I think there is an innate. Say again?
Do we know that though? Because what tribe has been completely untouched by humans and any kind of outside influence? That is,
I mean,
the same levels of sexual abuse and inequality. I don't think we can blanketly say that.
Yeah, so I would struggle to pull out the name of a tribe for you. It's I'll get round to that PhD one day. But
why?
But I'm quite confident in saying, like, there are.
I mean, me too.
I like, it feels to me like it's more likely to be an innate thing, given that it's actually the same throughout, like, other species. Even like, it's you'll look at it in groups of primates. You'll look at it in like packs of tigers, and like, it's always the male that is more physically strong that then dominates and treats the females shitly. It doesn't make it right.
But that's also not true. That's also not true.
Oh, please, correct me, please.
I will raise tigers, or I'll give you tigers, and I'll raise you elephants. They're matriarchal.
Okay, so then the men get treated like shit.
Yeah, they get pushed out when they're younger. They get pushed out when they're young, and they have to go and fend for themselves.
Yeah.
And they, fight other men or whatever, and then go and procreate and all the rest of it. But the women are stronger physically, mentally.
Interesting. Okay. I've been educated tonight.
I mean, I've said that in such a confident way.
I'll do like a follow-up thing now. Like, I'll be like, by the way, when Lucy was telling me this the other day, look, I just found this. I mean, you could literally have made that up and I'd be like, oh my God, that's fascinating.
I know. I promise I haven't.
Yeah.
But it was fueled by quite a few Prosecco's, so.
Yeah. I mean, I will say this. I hope it's true, purely on the basis that then next time, like when we are complaining that men have it easy or that they treat women, I can be like, yeah, but fucking look at elephants. So it's all, it's a bit balanced, this world thing. Go and be an elephant. I won't say that really. That would be really mean. But I am banking it. It's going to be in there for the next...
I know you are.
Yeah. Let's talk for a minute then about so we talked a bit about the UK circling the drain, and we talked about sort of, trying to stay in the moment, not worrying too much about the future from your kids' perspectives. I feel like, what do you think is the most likely end for us in the next 10, 15 years? Do you think we'll go out via nuclear war? Do you think it'll be a pandemic, like a new variant or brand new fucking wet market thing? Or is it going to be climate change? Are we going to get fried alive? What's your chosen end of the world scenario?
Oh my God, that's really difficult because... So my dad was a very pragmatic person. He was an immigrant, a doctor in the NHS. He was just a person he was just pragmatic, right? So I always grew up with someone saying, things go in cycles, things are shit and then they're better. Just don't even worry about it. And balance, have a cigarette, but also have a vegetable, whatever. FYI, he did die of lung cancer, so
okay.
As a caveat.
Yeah, but then it goes in circles, right? Cycles. So,
Exactly.
He went out by that, but maybe he'll come back. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Also, I don't smoke, so that's helpful.
Good. Yeah.
I kind of always feel like everything will probably be okay. Everything is shit on a micro level, right? It's so shit for so many people. We were talking beforehand, and we're not immune to it, even though we have privilege. We're not immune to cost of living. It is hard. It's a struggle for the majority of people. But I just feel like everything will be okay, even climate change. And I truly believe in power, and also the science and the fact that humans are incredibly adaptable. I'm not saying it's not gonna get worse, and lots of people will die and things will be shit. As a whole, I think the world will continue.
You're actually more sort of positive about things than I am. I'm probably what will happen is we'll figure out how to get through climate change and we will avoid a nuclear war. Brexit will kind of sort itself out just at the point where all of the oil runs out. So we'll feel like everything, we came really close to solving X, Y, and Z. And then once the oil runs out, the whole fucking world implodes. Wars start, electricity stops. That's the thing that terrifies me, and it has done. I swear to God, I've been traumatized by this movie. It's a documentary called Collapse, and it was made in 2008, 2007, something like that. And it's an interview, an hour-long interview with this guy called Michael C. Ruppert, and he was an ex-CIA operative. And the movie, the way that the documentary guys started talking to him was to do with CIA operations in African American communities in the 70s and 80s. But then they started asking him about some more recent stuff. And he was talking about how the US has no published plan for how to deal with the scenario of peak oil, which is the idea that production of oil will peak and then it will slowly decline. And he was like predicting, the Gulf War, and he was there's like archive footage of him saying like, yeah, well, I mean, you'll probably see a lot more wars in the Middle East. They'll probably dress it up as, liberating countries, but really what they want to do is construct a massive fucking pipeline. Like all of this stuff that then went on to happen. It's just like ever since I saw that documentary, I'm just like, I've not seen anything yet that's caused me to believe that that is not precisely what's happening. So I'm like, even if we fix
thank you so much for sponsoring my nightmares for this.
Yeah, look, all I'm saying is that if you're feeling if you're feeling a little bit too upbeat, a little bit too optimistic, and it's, you're like, oh, I don't like this, then go and have a look for Collapse on YouTube. I'm sure it's probably still on there.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. I mean, if the problem that you're trying to solve...
Stay deluded.
If the problem that you're trying to solve is that you're too optimistic, then go and watch it. If the problem that you're trying to solve is to be able to sleep better, then do not watch it, because there's footage of him as he walks into a lecture theatre. He's giving a lecture about this stuff, and he starts his fucking lecture off by saying like, okay, I'm just going to say this now before I get started. I would strongly advise all of you to pre-plan that you roll yourself up a big joint or pour yourself a glass of wine or whatever the fuck it is that you need to calm down after I've finished talking about, like, because he knows that he's about to tell these people like sort of how it really is and how doomed everything is. Yeah, it's really fucked.
Oh God! Thanks so much for that. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, some podcasters like to leave their audience on a upward tick. Keep them hungry for the next one. But no, I like to really crash this shit down. I tell you what we could do, Lucy. We could do some quick fire questions, lighten the mood a bit. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, because we've been talking for an hour, so let's get through the quick fires, and then I'm going to thank you, and then I'm just going to let you go. So here we go. Question number 1. What's your favourite colour?
Oh, black. I know it's not really a colour. I don't even want to talk about it. Don't at me about this, but black.
That's fine. You can have black. What's your favourite animal?
Elephant.
Oh, of course. Yeah, silly question.
Yeah, I've got a tattoo of an elephant somewhere. Yeah.
Is that because of the...
You can't really see it.
Is that because of the matriarchal stuff that you were telling me about?
I'm just obsessed with it. I just love it.
Okay.
I just love them. I love them.
That'd be a nice, like, sort of, tie up there. What's your favourite swear word?
Oh, cunt.
Ah, beautiful. That's mine too.
Always.
Yeah.
Best one.
Okay, question 5. Last one. Everyone has a hobby. Some like to learn languages, others paint or sing in a band. What I like to do is quietly ruminate over traumatic memories of stupid things I said and did when I was a younger man. What is your biggest regret of your 20s?
My 20s. I know people say this and it's really earnest and really trite, but I genuinely don't have regrets, only because if I regret that one thing, then kind of it follows that I wouldn't have ended up in the situation I am now, or be the person I am now. However, if I was going to be less of a cunt, I would say going to university.
Interesting. Yeah, I feel similarly about university. There's the financial aspect where I'm like, I can't believe I put myself in, and I had it pretty good compared to today's standards. But it still took me until I was about 28, I think, to pay off my student loans.
I still haven't.
Have you not?
No, and I'm 40 this year.
Yeah.
I'm not paying that off.
It's fucking nutty, isn't it? It's like, Like, and now, like, these kids today, like, going to university for, like, 30 grand or 40 grand debt. I'm just like, you're out of your fucking mind. Like, all those courses are free on the internet.
Yes. Yeah.
Just go and fucking learn it. Learn a skill on, like, egghead.com or, like, even YouTube. Like, so many tutorials. I taught myself to code off YouTube. Just do that shit. Learn to code when you're, like, 14 or 15. Then you'll be contracting by the time you're like 18, 19. Move into the student house at Leeds University while all of your mates are going into debt. Meanwhile, you're fucking raking it in. Like,
yes.
Actually, I've got one more quick fire for you. Ready?
Yeah, go for it.
Last one. If you could donate one famous face to a portrait gallery exhibition entitled "People with Punchable Faces," whose would it be?
Oh, that is so hard because there's so fucking many of them.
Who has a really punchable face?
So hard. Like, pretty much the entire Tory party. However, there's Dominic Raab for me is the one that I want to. If I saw him in real life, I would want to stab him between the eyes.
Okay.
I admit, I fantasize about doing some really awful stuff to that man. He is so fucking punchable. It's disgusting.
The problem you got with Raab, really, is that he's a black belt in fucking something or other, isn't he? I feel like if you punched him, he would... Like,
I could take him.
Do you reckon? Oh, you're... Like, elephant tattoo? I get it. Yeah, it's fine.
I could do it.
Yeah, okay. My most punchable face, I think, would be... I feel like Piers Morgan has got a really, like, squishy, red-cheeked, punchable face. Or, like, Clarkson, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, my God, yeah, what's weird. Yeah.
Like, Jeremy Clarkson...
Like, his actual face is...
Yeah, it's just so, like it would be visceral. Like, if I squished my hard fist into his face... I would come from both balls. It feels so good. There's a slight delay on like when we're talking from my end, so like every now and then I'll like crack a joke or say something a little bit off color, and it's like silence, and I'm like, oh fuck, I pushed it too far. Thank you so much for joining me tonight, Lucy Lucraft. Guys, please do go and give Lucy a follow on Instagram. You'll find her tagged on my my promo stuff that I've been putting out about the podcast. Also, check out her podcast, What She Said, with Lucy Lucraft. I don't know. Are you on a break from the podcast at the moment? Are you coming back with some new shows, or maybe ish?
Yeah, maybe. I like to think I will, but I'm very lazy about it.
Yeah,
maybe.
Fair play. The podcast producer speaks. Cool. Okay. So yeah, go and seek out Lucy Lucraft. She produces podcasts for corporates and entrepreneurs and so on. So if that's your bag, if you're considering starting a podcast to expand your business and get your messaging and products and services out there, then obviously get in touch. I'll be back next Wednesday with a solo show in which I'll no doubt be ranting and roasting about the week's political quagmires. And then I'll be back with my guest next week, who I have no idea who the fuck I booked. But tune in next week, 7:30 on YouTube live stream. There's a lot of people listening to this for the first time, just like this. What even is this? This isn't fucking Newsnight. That's what this show is. Thanks again to all of the Patreons for continuing your support. I'm going to give you a quick readout now, if I can just quickly get the list up in front of me. See, super prepped. 13 Patreons now. We're doing well, guys. Big shouts to Stuart, Aaron. Oh, wait, no, hold on. Wait. There we go. Stuart, Anthony, Pingu, David, Alex, Chris, and Rax, and then Ricardo, Silent, T-Rex, Oliver, Sarah, and Kerry. Thank you so much, guys, for continuing to support the show. You give my funny bone a funny boner. I'm out. See you later. Ciao.